Well, good morning and welcome to CityLine. It is wonderful to be in your home. This morning is a beautiful summer morning. It is the 13th of July and we have a great hour ahead. Later on, we'll be talking with Candace Wesley and James Watson. They are with Tacoma Ceasefire. I have wanted to have them on for so long and today is the day. So I'm so excited to get to know them and to find out what they do for our great city. Lori Davenport will be here. She's with Tacoma Pro Bono to talk about the rental environment, to talk about protections from COVID, and what is the current state right now if you are somebody who is struggling with an eviction. Friends of Children, this is the first time they have been on television here in Tacoma. We have J.R. Nobles and, of course, Maria Harlow, and they'll talk about this wonderful organization that makes a difference in children's lives. And then with me right now is somebody who I am convinced, and so is my wife, that she doesn't ever sleep because she does so much good for our community. She and that massive team she has. Please join me in welcoming President and CEO of the United Way of Pierce County, Donna Ponapito. Hi, you.
Good morning.
It's good to have you in the house.
Very good to see you.
Gosh, the last time I think I saw you in person was at the 100-year gala.
Yes, our 100-year gala.
Boy, that was impressive, let me tell you. Well done, United Way.
And thank you.
Oh, my goodness. So one of the things is that you have taught me so much about the acronym ALICE and what ALICE is. So to our viewers who perhaps don't know, can you explain who is ALICE and how it measures economic hardship in Pierce County?
So ALICE is asset limited, income constrained, employed, and those are individuals that are getting up every day. They're working, sometimes 2 and 3 jobs. And in terms of the 2 pillars to measure ALICE is the household necessities, your household basics, and income.
Yes.
And so we're looking at that. And so we have what's called household survival budget, which looks at all the basic essentials that that people need, housing, food, transportation, healthcare, but just the very basics. And for Pierce County, if you think about a family of 4,
right?
2 adults, 2 children in childcare, just the survival budget is about $83,000 a year. $83,000. That's just a minimum. That's not savings or anything. Then if you want to think about the stability budget for that same size family, that's $140,000 a year. So you see the gap.
Huge.
It's a huge gap.
From barely surviving to, if we can get $140,000, we may use that word, you're going to thrive a little more than you do at $83,000. But what a gap. Yeah. I mean, in my mind, all I see is the Grand Canyon with people on opposite sides. So you have rolled out, and I was a part of this online, and it was open for anybody who wanted to listen, the ALICE report. And it provides the first look at the extent of financial hardship in Washington using the ALICE metrics that since COVID-19 pandemic began. So what were some of the key findings in the ALICE report for Pierce County for this year, and how do they compare to the data that you're always collecting?
Yeah, and the report is extensive.
It's huge.
It's
you
huge.
have it on your lap.
And so
show them how much this is.
I have it on my lap here. So some of the key findings, first of all, financial hardship over time. ALICE families continue to struggle, from starting with the Great Recession, and then, of course, with the pandemic, ALICE families even more so.
Yep.
And then you've got demographics. There's still the disparities that are out there. When we look at the ALICE households in Pierce County, there's about 107,000 based on the 2021 data.
And what's our population?
Our population, well, there's about 367,000 households. Households,
yes.
Right? And so when we look back to 2019, and that's what this report is based on, it looked at before the pandemic and then 2021. So
That's
in 2019 you had about 97,000 Alice
Okay.
households, so that grew to 107
Wow.
in 2021. When you look at the disparities though, it's even greater. So you still for Native American, 49% of the Native American households in 2021 were Alice. 48 were African American. Hispanic was around 39, and actually Hispanic households, it went down from 2019.
Wow.
They were in the 40% range. So we still have to pay attention to what, the whys of that still happening. And then wages, work and wages. You've got still 20 most common occupations in the state are below $20 an hour.
Yes.
Right? And even though some wages went up, for Alice families, it didn't go up enough. So again, they're still struggling.
Right.
You've got wages, you've got the cost of living, you've got all of these competing forces that are happening out there. Inflation, as we came out of Alice, the pandemic assistance helped.
Yes, it did.
So, so families received, the child care tax credits, the stimulus payments. But again, for the Alice families, not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough. And then savings. Yes, people were able to save during the pandemic. But as we started to come out of the pandemic, eating up those savings.
Yep.
So again, Alice families able to save, but then they also had to dig into those savings as well. So, as we look at beyond, 21 and beyond, some of the things that we have to pay attention to is, the cost of food, food
It's through the roof.
insecurity. It's huge. Affordable housing.
That also.
Costs
Gas.
of rent, gas, all of those things, mental health.
Yes.
All of those things we need to be paying attention to.
Absolutely. And boy, you said mental health. That is a month-long show where you and I sleep on the couch, wake up and talk some more, because that is, there's never enough time for all of that. So in light of Alice, what are some of the most pressing issues that we are currently facing? Because this goes from before the pandemic to 2021. But we are now in 2023. So what are we doing to alleviate some of these issues?
Yeah, and that's the work, because they're even greater. We just talked about food insecurity.
Yes.
I mean, the cost of groceries for a family of four. So that's an ongoing issue. The affordable housing issue, I think, as a community, as a county, state, we've got to figure out how do we ensure that people have safe, affordable housing. And then there's never enough behavioral health services, workforce. How do we make sure that there's a wage progression? And working with some of our partners, like working with Workforce Central and our 211, and getting people job seekers connected to the right kinds of supports. And our Centers for Strong Families.
Yes.
That is really all about how do you help families move from not just being self-sufficient, but to thriving.
Exactly.
And then our GRIT program, the Guaranteed Income Initiative that we did in partnership with the city of Tacoma, and now we're fortunate enough to receive money out of the state budget for over the next 2 years to continue to do that, because we know just that small amount of extra resources in a family's pocket makes a difference. $500 makes a difference to that family that's just right there on the edge.
Absolutely. So if people were not aware of the GRIT program, Donna, tell us what it is, how people are selected, and then when does the next, I'm going to use the word cohort, start?
So Guaranteed Income Initiative, GRIT, is growing resilience in Tacoma. We did it in 2022. Individual households receive, single head of households receive $500 a month for a year.
What a gift.
And they were Alice families. So these are individuals that are working. They're getting up and working every day.
2 and 3 jobs.
2 and 3 jobs. And this was a gift. It was gifted, so it wasn't taxed. But what it did is it allowed them to breathe. It allowed them to, if their benefits were impacted, because some of them did receive food assistance, then it enabled them to go and buy their groceries.
Right.
It gave them dignity, freedom of choice, but it also helped to propel many of them to think about what were their next steps, what were they going to do when this was done.
Right.
So the next cohort, we're working on it. We're going to be working with the city and the county to figure out, again, what zip codes do we need to target, but using the same frame to help more families.
I love that. I sat in the city council meeting the other night, and there was much discussion about if your rent is this much, but you bring home this much, and you only have $300 left at the end of the month, that is not even enough to think about food, clothing, or even emergency if something happens. And so I love that we tried this program. It was a wild success. And now we're going back at it again, which is incredible. In terms of what this report tells us, how are we changing how we forecast getting families up and out of poverty?
Yeah, I think that's the billion-dollar
question.
question.
It's a billion-dollar answer. Yeah.
What are we doing? There's so many things that we could do. I think as a community, for us at United Way is how are we helping to change the narrative?
That's it.
Around how we talk about poverty, how we talk about Alice families, the pull yourself up by the bootstraps, is not a reality because so many families don't have the boots. They don't have the boots, and so we do a lot in terms of how do we bring people together to have the conversation about poverty, about Alice families, and the hardworking families that are in our community. So I think that's the work that we have to do. The narrative change work is really what we're focused on because we can't change systems.
No.
Unless we change the narrative.
Right.
Right?
And we can change people with narratives.
Yes.
We can change people who have never gone to college before, never gone to a trade school. And that in itself would impact an Alice family.
Because systems need to change.
They do.
We know.
Donna, as always, I love having you on the couch. We get warmed up and then we
know.
have to say goodbye.
I know.
Thank you so much. I want you and your wonderful husband to have a great summer. And I'll see you back on the couch when it's time for the back to school.
Wonderful. I'll be back.
All right.
Thank you.
We have much more to come on CityLine. Don't go away. We'll be right back.